Hi all. Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Morning, everybody. Oh my goodness. Okay, so something exciting happened last night. I'm laying in bed, taking care of my sore muscles. We're not done moving. We have another 2 weeks of this crap. Anyway, I started getting these messages from people that I was being talked about on a show called Popcorned Planet. Now, apparently this is a very popular show. Unfortunately, Miss Technology person here had never heard of it. And they invited me to hop on real quick, so I went. And my poor husband had to set up the Zoom for me because you know I'm technology challenged. I can barely write an email. One of these days. So just digress for 1 second. My kids can get a new phone and they're working it in 5 minutes and I'm still dealing with it 5 days later. Like, that's not funny. And it's not fair. Anyway, we have a lot to cover today. Again, the Queen has come home. There's some more controversy going on. So let's just jump in with both feet and get there. And if you want to see what I said, you're going to have to go to that Popcorned Planet show. It was fabulous. And everybody on there was really nice to me. I was so nervous. I talked too much. So nervous. Okay, let's just jump in. Let's go. We're going to start this morning with some photos sent to me by my subscriber, Catherine. She titled them A Breath of Fresh Air. I believe it. Jumping right in this morning, Princess Anne finally put out a statement where she pointed out she was fortunate to share the last 24 hours of her mother's life. So she was definitely with her, and how it was an honor and privilege to accompany her on her final journeys. It's a wonderful statement. Freeze the screen and read the whole thing. It's very moving and touching. So as I showed you yesterday, the Queen made it back to London. And as I told you yesterday, Anne and her husband were on the flight with her. They took her off the flight and they put her in the hearse. Now, this is where I read something online that I found that was really cool. Apparently, the hearse was designed by the royal household and Jaguar Land Rover. The Queen was consulted in the plans, and the thing about it is they lit it up so that you can see her coffin as it goes by. And I'm going to show you some processions now. Here we go. It's lit up. I love that, so that you can see her. Okay, let's watch the last few clips of her getting close to the palace. And finally, she made it home. Watch this. So the family gathered to accept the coffin before, it got there, and it was Charles and Camilla, and that was the first car we saw. And then we saw William and Catherine. And of course, Catherine was dressed most appropriately in a black dress. It was absolutely gorgeous. It had a very high neckline, and she was wearing pearls, which are timeless. As you can see, she's got almost no makeup on. She's very natural looking. And of course, you can see from her face that she's very upset. You can't really blame her there. Then here's Charles and Camilla going in, waiting for the coffin's arrival. And then here comes Harry and Meghan. And I couldn't help but notice what Meghan's mole said. It's true. She's a face full of makeup, a ton of bronzer. She's got her shirt down buttoned again, top of the cleavage. And it looks like she's going to an opening at a disco, not accepting the coffin of the sovereign. Who dresses her? Who is her stylist? They need to be fired. That's all I can say. So Omid Scobie put up this tweet about they managed to just capture this picture before the Queen's coffin was received at the grand entrance. And of course, you see Charles down in front, and right behind Charles, yep, there's Harry and Meghan. But notice nobody else is around them. There's other people at the top of the stairs, if you're paying attention. But once again, they seem to be on their own. I bet nobody's really talking to them. That's my guess. It's being announced that there was a family dinner at Buckingham Palace after the coffin returned to the palace. I wonder what the conversation was at the dinner table. Now, it's being reported that usually you don't bury people with jewelry, but they're going to bury the Queen with her simple gold wedding band and a pair of pearl earrings. They're saying that her engagement ring is going to be passed on to Anne, which I think is most appropriate. Now, we all know what's going on. Harry was told he could not wear any of the honorary military titles, therefore, the uniform for the vigil that he wanted to wear. And Harry is, slamming back on it. And everybody's like, his decade of military service is not determine what he wears. They're saying that he's going to be wearing something called a morning suit. Now, I believe this is a morning suit that Andrew is wearing. It's not a tuxedo. I don't think, it's kind of like a tux. That must be a UK thing, because I'm really not sure about that. Anyway, they came out and put a statement up that said, his decade of military service is not determined by the uniform that he wears, and we repeatedly ask that the focus remain on the legacy of the majesty of the Queen. Well, it absolutely could remain there if they would stop trying to headline grab. Now, you guys should know there's also a gentleman on Twitter called Fred Arbuthnot. I hope I'm saying that right. And this is what he said. It's not complicated. He's a serving Army officer, so at official events, he wears the dress stipulated by his commanders. When he retires, he's no longer entitled to wear the uniform. He says, and I won't feel the need to tell everybody there that I've done 13 operational tours to validate myself. He said, but then mine were proper tours, not sitting in the big base playing Call of Duty on a game console and falsely making out to be some kind of hero. Those that know. Wow. Now, another reason that people are upset about him wanting to wear his military uniform is what happened with the Disney debacle. Now, I liked what Pooja here said, criticizing Harry and Meghan for their lies and how they exploit their titles for cash is not racism. Okay, but people have not forgotten what happened with Disney. Let me remind you. So Harry went with Meghan to the Lion King premiere one night in 2019. And this is what happened when he got here. Here he is talking to the head of Disney. Watch this. Now, the head of Disney's wife, if you look to the left, was most unhappy with what happened. But Harry and Meghan didn't stop there. No, they got in front of Beyonce and her husband, and this is what happened. Watch this.
That's really why we're here. It's the pitch.
She's just not Scarlet. So
So Harry had his choice that night of going to see The Lion King and pitching his wife for work, or going to a memorial after the IRA detonated a bomb in 1989 that killed 11 bandsmen and injured 21 other people at the Royal Marines School of Music. These were Marines that were killed. So he made his choice. He decided he'd rather go to Disney and pitch her for work. Now, it's being reported that William and Harry will walk behind the Queen's coffin together, and Meghan and Kate will follow in the car. Apparently, Camilla's going to be in the car too. Now, you guys would be absolutely ridiculous to think that Harry and Meghan have not been in touch with Netflix throughout this entire thing and how they can get footage and put this into their Netflix special. So if I were Catherine and Camilla, I wouldn't speak to her in the car. I would just not speak because she's probably taping. So here we go. It's the next morning. The soldiers line up outside Buckingham Palace for the procession to Westminster Abbey. The different royal family members, Eugenie, Beatrice, Edo, Camilla, everybody arrives to Buckingham Palace for the procession that's going to take them to Westminster Abbey, okay? The look of emotion on Catherine's face, you can just tell she's having a really hard day with all of this. She's having a hard time. Anyway, interesting. Princess of Wales drove to the church in the same car with the Queen Consort, and Sophie ended up in a car with Meghan. Doesn't look like there was any conversation going. Probably a smart move. Anyway, the men lined up for the procession, and thank you to Megan's Mole for this photo because this just got me. Here you have all of the procession lined up. They have their papers in their hands. Everybody's standing to attention except for Andrew, who's fiddling with his paper, and Harry, who's fiddling with his paper. Everybody else is standing at, tall waiting. And then the procession began. It left from the palace. You can see Harry on the right, William on the left, Charles in front. You can just look at the emotion on their face. Now, the first thing they did was drive past the staff that had waited on the Queen, excuse me, and that currently works for the King. Now, Camilla's car and Meghan's car, everybody's cars got there, and they all went into the church. Watch this. The procession continued. There's Johnny. There you go. And yeah, those are the kinds of photos that just get me. Poor Charles hasn't had a second to grieve. He's had to do official visits. Anyway, here they are marching. All the people came out for the Queen, and these pictures just break my heart. But you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the faces that we saw in the crowd at Diana's funeral as they were lining the mall. Just look at the grief etched on their faces. It's heartbreaking. They're saying it's like losing your grandmother, and it is. It's like losing a family member. It really is. She probably reigned for most of these people's entire lives, even the older people. What a shame. So the procession left exactly at 2:22 p.m. It is historic. Here's a little bit more of the family behind the coffin. Watch this. So the procession continued, and it wove around through the city until it got to the church. And interesting that they put that crown, the one she was crowned with, I think that's St. James, don't quote me though, was on top of the coffin. Now, also interesting, she was on the same gun carriage that carried both of her parents, albeit 50 years apart, to their final resting places as well. Here she is going into Westminster Hall. Here she goes. It's all about tradition. And they put her up on the stand. So Westminster Hall, which is where her mother was visited by people as well. And look at the emotion on their faces. Watch this. Now the vigil has started. So here's the beginning of it. Watch this.
The start of the vigil.
And then it came time to leave, and you'll see that everybody kept a respectful distance, and they looked cordial and respectful and wonderful and in mature relationships. And then here comes Harry and Meghan. Watch this. Now, not long after that, this picture came up and everybody went, look what's going on there. And my thought process to that was, they're not senior royals. Tsar doesn't even have a title. I'm afraid they're not in the same position of the royal family. You may not like it, but that's what it is. Couple of quick updates. Remember the professor who tweeted she hoped that the Queen had a painful death and the internet went berserk? She is not losing her job. She is a professor at a United States university. I guess whoever gives money to that university shouldn't. Now, Dan Wooten went on Good Morning Britain News or Great Britain News, whatever he's on, and spoke with Samantha Markle, who we know is suing Meghan in court. Meghan tried to have the case thrown out, didn't work. They're going to be in court next year. She's going to try to settle. I hope Samantha doesn't. But I'm sorry, I digress. And basically, people are upset because Dan reached out to them. But you know what Samantha said? She said that she, her brother, and Thomas Markle are all very sad about the death and send their condolences to the people of Great Britain. I don't see what the problem is with that. Okay, I showed you guys that Oprah is itching around, I think, not for an invitation to the funeral, but an invitation to the coronation is what I think she's looking for. And this is what was said on the news. Spot on, people. Watch this.
Isabel, first of all, I would just like to apologize because at this point in time, I feel like your country should have a moment to mourn. And Oprah should not be inserting herself in the headlines associated with this. So I would like to apologize as an American for this American personality. I'm sorry. But yes, she recently did a sit-down interview with Gayle King on CBS and said she never intended for Harry and Meghan's interview to be a bombshell interview. And I would just like to raise my hand and say, actually, Oprah, my friend Adam Glenn interviewed you on the street in January of 2020, where you ripped into the entire Megxit situation, took up for Harry and Meghan, accused the palace of lying, and we have receipts. I know Oprah's likely looking for an invitation to the coronation, but that is very unrealistic. And, I just think her actions are completely inappropriate right now. No one wants to hear from you right now, Oprah. Sit down.
I could not have said that more eloquently myself. There you go. Now, I wondered why all of this is coming up now. Like, what's happening? And a blind item came out. And you guys know that those blind items are usually pretty spot on. And this permanent A-lister complained to everyone how she loves screwing the royal family over because of how many times she was turned down for interviews she thought they should have agreed to. Let's take a guess who we think that is. One more little update for you. Remember this picture of that weird square thing on Meghan's hip, and everybody was talking about maybe it was a recording device, and people came out and said, no way? A big thank you to my subscriber Belinda for sending this to me. This is a mini voice recorder, and if you look at this second picture at the device, that does look suspiciously about the same size and shape as the little funky box on her hip. Very interesting. All right, you guys. And finally, we have the last update. Supposedly, it's being put out that Sunshine Sachs is no longer working with Meghan. But the reason is because the other people who are represented by Sunshine Sachs are expected to step up and defend Harry and Meghan, when they're doing stuff, kind of like, when she did that 40 by 40 and what's her name? McCarthy was on there. By the way, I haven't watched her since, and I won't watch her stuff. Well, apparently when they're reaching out to a lot of these people and they're asking them to stand up for them or do things with them, there's so much pushback they've left Sunshine Sachs. That's the word. All right, you guys, once again, a lot of information, a ridiculous amount of information. My goodness. So I want your comments. As always, I'm going to read them, okay? Don't forget to leave your comments below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to be notified when I upload new content, okay? And if you've already hit the button, don't forget to double check and make sure that you're still subscribed, since people are still being unsubscribed for some reason. Don't forget that you can follow me on Twitter, Getter, Rumble. You can email me. For those of you who've donated to my coffee fund and through the thanks button, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.